Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our 8th episode of the tutorial series for our very first game. Let's go ahead and click in and get started. Today what we're going to do is work on a transition from one room to the next. Give it a big victory at the end of the room when you complete it. And press enter to continue. And then we'll create the second room where we're going to go. So first off, I'm going to close all the objects we've got. I'm going to close room game, S door. What we're going to want to do, we'll start off with a transition. So the transition is pretty much just making it like fading from one screen to the next. And there's 2 bajillion ways you could do it, but I'm going to show you one that's effective and simple. So in our O control game room, open that up and go to create, make a create event here, and again rename it init, and just create a variable that says fade x, and it will be equal to 1280. So that's the width of our GUI layer that we'll be working with, really. So fade x equals 1280. I'm just going to comment fade width. That's the width of our screen. And what we'll do is we'll make it so that when you enter the room, it's completely black and the screen fades or swipes, I guess, into being an active room. So at the end of our draw GUI event, we've got draw GUI here, open it up and go down to the bottom and comment fade into room. What we're going to do is say if, what's the variable we just created? Terrible. If fade x greater than 0, so if fade x is greater than 0, so if that 1280 is bigger than 0, we are going to say fade x minus equals, what's a good number? How about 25? So that should be good. And what that's going to do is take away from that 1280. We're drawing a giant rectangle that's going to be 720 high by 1280. We're going to make that 1280 shrink every frame by 25 now. So after that, just say draw rectangle. 0, 0 is the top corner. And again, you can always look and see what you're actually writing in here and what you need. So 0, 0 is the top corner, and the bottom, that's the top left corner, bottom right corner is going to be our x value, so fade x, that's going to be the farthest right value, and the y is going to be 720 because that's the height of our screen. The next is outline. Is it an outline of a rectangle or is it a actual rectangle? So I'm just going to put false. Or you could put 0. It is not an outline. So draw rect. And that will function properly pretty quickly. That should work right away. Let's just run it to see what it looks like. Just to make sure. So we made sure that we're drawing this stuff after all of our GUI stuff above it. Let's just make sure it opens up properly. And eventually, there we go. So that swiped in. It was white instead of black. That's probably what I was trying to figure out. I was trying to, I knew I forgot something. Draw set color. C, black. So what we're doing is we are setting the color to black. Now, depending on what color you want your text, draw set color is going to set the color that anything's being drawn to black. So fonts, rectangle, or shapes. So where we have up here that we're drawing text, that's now going to be black text. So I personally prefer that it's white. So up here I'm going to say draw set font white, or draw set color, sorry, white. It's going to run through here, it's going to draw the font, and it's going to come down to here, and I'm going to cut that out and actually throw it into that if statement, so that if fade x greater than 0, it's going to subtract it and draw it. If it's not greater than 0, there's no reason to be drawing a rectangle that doesn't need to exist. So once you've done that, run it again. And it should look pretty swell. So that fades in, and that's a pretty simple transition. What we want to do, though, is when we've collected this key, walked up to the door, poofs away, opens up, we want some words to come down, say victory or success, and then press enter to continue. So that's what we'll work on next. So exit out of there. We're going to go and create a new object, and we're going to actually, we'll call it O success. So create a new object over here. O success, S-U-C-C-E-S-S, O success. And what this is going to do is draw the letters that come down. It's going to say success. So we'll create a create event, rename it init. One variable we'll have to keep track of is the Y. We want that to change. We want it to fall in. So we need to keep track of the Y variable for drawing the font. So I'm just going to make a variable called draw Y. It's going to be equal to -100. So because we want it to be drawn off screen initially, we're going to draw it at -100, where the screen starts at 0 and 0, x and y. So -100 is out of the screen. I'll also write in here text. This is the text that we're going to be drawing. And we're just going to put S-U-C-C-E-S-S, that's the way you spell success, with an exclamation mark, because we're excited. And now we'll go to the draw GUI event, and we're going to draw it now. So rename it to draw success, or whatever you want to rename it to, whatever works for you. And we're going to draw text transformed. So what that lets us do is draw text, and it lets us change the size of it. We're going to draw it at, I'll show you another cool trick that you can use for drawing text. We're going to draw set right before this. What makes this cool is that you can center the text, sort of like if you open up a Word document, you can align it left, right, or center. We're going to draw it in the center. So draw set H align, horizontal alignment, I assume is what that means. And I'm not sure why this variable is what it is, but FA center. So draw set horizontal alignment, FA center, and then give that a dot thing, semicolon. And then we'll draw our text transformed. Now we know that it's going to be centered to whatever the X is. Let's just put it right in the middle of the room, or right in the middle of our GUI width, which is 1280. So if we put 640, that's right in the center. So x, y is going to be draw y, which is negative 100. So when it draws, it won't be on screen. So that's x, y. The string we're drawing is going to be text. I believe that's what we called it. Yep, text. And then we can draw the x scale and the y scale. So I'm just going to put it at 3 and 3. X and y scale is 3. And then we need the angle. The angle is 0 because that's horizontal. That's to the right. If we changed it to 90, it would rotate it 90 degrees. Now we want that draw y to increase. We want the number to come up, which would be bringing the text down. As confusing as that sounds. So what we'll do is say, where do we want the text to be? How about if we've got 720 to work with this way, we could drop it down to 300. 300 should be good. So if draw y is less than 300, so it's at negative 100 now, it's obviously less than 300, we want to add to it. So draw y plus equals 5. So every frame it's going to add, let's do 10, that might be too slow. So every frame it's going to add, 10 pixels. Now I'm just remembering that it's on the GUI layer. Go up to where it says draw text transformed. Draw it a little bit bigger. Let's draw it 5. You know what? Never mind. Forget I said that. I think let's just look and see what this looks like first. So now we have our object, O success. It's going to draw our text properly. What we need to do is add this in once the door opens. So go to O door, and at the animation end event, once that door has opened, we can say instance create layer. Doesn't really matter where it's at because it doesn't have a sprite. So X, Y, it's going to be on the instances layer, and it will be O success. So now once that animation ends, the door's open, runs the animation, it ends the animation, it will create the success object. So let's run that and have a look. There we go. So we fade in. We've got to go get our key without dying. Ooh. And then open the door. It opened the door and it drops in and says success. So that is smaller than I thought it was going to be. And it's right centered, which is awesome. So let's go back to our O control game room, I think. No, O success, that's where we want to draw. So open up your object O success over here. I can zoom that in too. So hopefully you can see that better. So O success, draw the X and Y scale of the draw text transform to 6. Let's just see what that looks like. Just to give it more of a bang. I'm going to run it again just to see what our scale looks like. So we're going to grab the key, open the door, success. Awesome. So that's basically what we want to accomplish. But we also want it to say that we want it to tell the player press enter to continue. So we know that we're drawing, we're adding to the Y whenever that text hasn't landed at that 300 mark. So if draw Y is less than 300, we're making it fall, which means that if we're not making it fall, it's stopped. So what we can say here is else. So if draw y is less than 300, it's drawn on its y-axis, it's gotten to 300 now. So it's not less than 300. We can say otherwise, we want to draw text. We're going to do transformed again. Draw text transformed. And we're going to say 640 draw y plus 50. So we're using its current y position, we're adding 50 to it, so it's underneath. Draw x, y, and now we can put in a string that says press enter to proceed. Press enter to proceed. And then we're just going to draw this at x and y scale of 2 and 0 for our image angle. So let's just comment this so that it's easier to read. If text is higher than 300, add 10 to y-axis, brackets, drop the text to the middle of screen. And I always tell people the commenting, when you're looking through and you're trying to figure out where you were, reading code's great, but if you can just read if text is higher than 300, I can kind of know where I'm working at. So draw text transformed. This is going to be draw proceed text. So now it should draw some text underneath. It says press enter to proceed. Right in here, now that we know that that text is there, we can say if keyboard check pressed VK enter. So that was a little quick line there. So if keyboard check pressed, pretty straightforward. If it checks that the keyboard button enter has been pressed, you can see virtual key enter. You can use whatever key you want. If you want to say escape or P, well, P is a little different. For a letter, you'd type something like this. If keyboard check press ORD P, and that would be checking for the keyboard key, the letter P. But we're using VK enter. Enter. There we go. So now that we know the text has dropped and we're allowed to proceed, you can say room go to, we're actually just going to say room go to next. And that's going to take us to the next room in our room order. Now if you go over to your asset browser, you can see your room order here. So room init, that's where we initialized all of our variables. Room game is where we're at right now. So the next room go to next is going to take it to the next room in this room order, and right now there's no other room. So what we'll have to do is, no, you know what? We're not going to next yet. We are going to fade out. So if keyboard check pressed, enter. So let's comment that. If enter pressed, let's create an object that fades out and then goes to the next room. So comment here, fade out, go to next room. So let's just call this, we're going to create an object kind of like we did when the animation of the door ended, but now this object's just going to carry us into the next room. And we haven't created it yet, but we're right here, so let's just type this in. Instance create layer, X, Y instances, and then we're going to call this object O fade to next level. So what we're doing is, once we press that enter key, we're going to fade to the next level. So now that we're telling it to create an object, we better make that object. Right click in your object folder, create a new object, and we'll paste that name up here, O, fade to next level. And this is going to be very similar to when we faded in, where we had a black square to begin with and we shrunk it, but now we're just going to have no square and we're going to expand it. So add event, create, init. We're going to put, this is going to say, I can't remember what we called it before, we're going to call it fade x. And this is going to be equal to 1280 again. And now let's go to the draw GUI layer. Draw GUI. And this will be fade out. So we'll write here, draw rectangle. And again, it's going to be, we're going to draw both of the corners initially at the very top right of the screen. So it's going to be basically one line, if you can see me, a line, and then that one edge will expand. So draw a rectangle, 1280, because that's the furthest right. That's our first x variable. Y will be 0, so it's at the top of the screen. The second x is going to be, draw, what do we call it? Fade x, I think. Fade x, which is also equal to 1280. The second y variable will be 720. That's the bottom of our screen. So right now we're drawing a line, and the rectangle will be false. It will not be an outline here. We don't want it to be an outline of a rectangle. We want it to be a full black rectangle. And we're going to, right above that, draw set color C black, just to make sure we're drawing black. So draw rectangle. Now, if, so now we've got to take that 1280 that's held by the fade x variable, we've got to shrink that so it's 0, so that eventually it goes that way. So if fade x is greater than 0, which it will be, we're going to minus equal 25. Oops, that looks silly. Fade x minus equal 25. So we're taking 25 away. And then else, room, go to next. So if fade x is greater than 0, we're growing that rectangle or taking away from the 1280 that it was. If it's not greater than 0, that means we've hit the 0 and it's less, or it's 0. It's going to, essentially, we've faded the entire rectangle and it's going to go to the next level. Now, just so we don't screw with the and get an error, let's create, we're going to duplicate room game. So go to your asset browser, right click room game, duplicate. We're going to call this room level 2. So level 2 looks a lot like level 1, but I'm just going to move the door over here, move the player over here. This little shooter thing, we're going to say that's 270, and we're going to aggressively copy and paste this. So we've got all sorts of shooters here. And then maybe this shooter is going to start off and shoot the player straight off the hop. So you better be ready for it. 0. No, that's mean. We'll put it up here. So now the key is surrounded and it's getting shot at from every angle. There we go. So this is level 2. So what's going to happen is, basically, when we hit that door it's going to create our success object once it's opened the door, and it's going to say press enter to continue. When you press enter, you create the object O fade to next level, and what that does is it creates a rectangle that's aligned to begin with that expands, and once it's expanded, it kicks you into the next level. Now once we've opened level 2, if you remember our what did we call it? O control game room. We will be so once this room is created, now we're going to fade into this room, so it's going to look really good. So just go ahead and hit the play button, and let's see if all this logic adds up, or if we made a misstep along the way. Let's run and grab that key. Let's go to the next level. We've opened the door. There we go. Success. And you can see that the text isn't where we want it to be, but that's what we can fix that. So we'll press enter now. That takes us to the next level. And now we've got some super aggressive fireballs. Let's see if we can do it without dying. This is actually super challenging. We died. Okay, so that's level 2. What it did was fade in and then it faded out. But you could see that it was kind of like just one big rectangle that came in and then swiped back in. Let's see if we can recreate that. I just want to see if we can make that a little bit smoother so there's kind of a pause from when it does that. So let's try again, and I just want to see what we can change. So we'll go grab our key. Oh, there we go. Open the door. Press enter to continue. So, I mean, that looks okay. But what we could do, so that it's got kind of a slight pause before it just moves a rectangle across the screen. In O fade to next level, we could say greater than, let's change this if fade x greater than 0 to if fade x greater than -500. Now let's do 400. So what that's going to do is it's going to keep counting. Even after that whole screen has become a black rectangle, it's going to keep counting backwards. So we have a bit of a pause in between. And now while we're in here, let's also open up O success and change this text right here. Draw text transformed, press enter to proceed. We want to change that so it's, let's just say plus 150. Just so it's adding the Y down a bit more. So hopefully it's drawing that text underneath of our success. And this should look pretty good, I think. So we open up, grab our key, open our door. Success. Press enter to proceed. There we go. Slight pause. Not a very long pause. We can go back to fade to next level. And again, this is all stuff that, you know, let's call it 1,000. It's all your personal preference. It's all what you think looks good. You know, you can draw more than one rectangle. You could draw 5 different rectangles that go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's actually what I do for the game I'm working on now. It's 5 different or 8 rectangles that swipe across. But let's try this just to see if that extra pause helps. Success, hit enter, pause. That looks good. I think that looks good. So anyway, that is basically going from one room to another. And let's exit out of here. Let's just quickly recap, because that was a little bit of stuff. So when we entered the door, we created a success object. So before the recap, actually, one thing I didn't tell you to do, at the very end of O Success Draw GUI, we have centered the text up at the top. What we're going to do at the very bottom is return it to being left justified. So copy this line, and then right here, FA, left. Left. Because I've run into that problem before where I centered the text and then I couldn't figure out why all my text in the game was being drawn all goofy, but that was why. So make sure you left justify your text there. So now going over what we did, we made our success object. It said success. We hit enter. It faded out. And we also made an object in the control object here where it would fade into the room. And then we created our second room. And you can see in our room order on the quick access menu over here, level 2. So we've got level 2 over here, which we're already in. But that's it for today. Next time, we'll be going into creating a title screen with clickable buttons that will say start or quit. And we'll take it from there. And I think we might even add the sounds in at that point, because that's a pretty quick topic. So thanks for watching. Leave a like if you made it through the whole thing. Leave a comment if you're confused, and you might be. I'm kind of just everywhere. And I'll see you at the next one. Bye.